FAU gets embarrassed in the Shula Bowl. First loss in 7 years of the Shula Bowl, and it comes in year one of head coach Zach Kittley. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the direction of the program and why you need to stay optimistic throughout the remainder of the season. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Night Owls podcast. My name is JJ Metz. I am your host for today's video. We are producing daily content here on the Night Owls, so it would mean a lot if you guys went down there, hit that subscribe button, left the like on the video. Really appreciate it. Now, let's get on to the video. So let's start with recapping the game and giving you my thoughts on the game. First off, there's a lightning delay. It delays the game for 2.5 hours. And I'd say that this is a slight advantage to FIU due to the fact that it's their home stadium, it's their locker room. They've definitely dealt with this before because it is summer/fall in South Florida, and we can expect that. But that shouldn't make a big difference overall. I mean, the game just, all it does is it delays the game, and that probably means there's going to be less fans overall because the fans are going to head back to their dorms. The students are going to want to head back home. And, obviously the FIU faithful help, but that kind of gives it an advantage in terms of stadium atmosphere for FAU. Now, game starts out. First drive, I believe it was second drive, we turn it over. They get a touchdown. And it was really a flip-flop back and forth first half. Kane Velkamp to Easton Messer, we saw that connection. It looked really good. And we have to be very pleased with those two and their, stellar connection. How Kane Velkamp is always hitting him. Then we go to Dom Henry. Xavier Terrell gets a huge run. And throughout the first half, we're not playing bad on either side of the ball. Caden does have that one costly interception, which is a big negative and, sets us back a lot. But I would say overall, we didn't play horrible in the first half on both sides of the ball. On defense, I'd say, the secondary definitely has a lot to improve on for sure. And we saw that be very evident with how Keon Jenkins only had 7 or 6 incompletions on the night. So weren't many pass breakups overall in the first half. When he was throwing it, he would get his guys. And we knew going into the game, to win this game, we had to stop the run. Keyshawn Owens had an insane first half touchdown there for him. We go into the half, or actually, we get the ball back with about 45 seconds left in the half. Caden Velkamp tries to go deep to Dom Henry. Dom Henry created 6 yards of separation on a streak from his receiver. He catches it, and he slips. And if Dom Henry, when he slipped, he was at their 20. All he has to do, stay on his feet, and FAU goes into half up 11 points. But he slips. Then Kane Velkamp throws an interception with about 10 seconds left in the half. So we don't even get any points out of that. That really kills our confidence, our momentum, the team's aura going into the locker room, and the overall feel of the team. It's down going into halftime. Halftime happens, and I've never seen a worse start to a second half. I don't think ever in the days that I've watched FAU football. I mean, it's 3 straight touchdowns that they get. They're up 38-21. That was a complete collapse. And what does that go on? That goes on the coaching. Coach Dewhurst needs to be better with his defensive scheme, with being able to plan for stopping the rush. It was really bad. I feel like, we really weren't blitzing enough on the running plays, and Keyshawn Owens was having clear gaps overall. CJ Doggett had a couple tackles in there, which is huge. Najon Barber led the team, or I think it was Kamari Jackson. I don't have the stats pulled up who led the team, but I know Najon Barber had a few tackles, which is positive for the Owls, especially the fact that he is on the front 7, the D line for him. And he wasn't playing bad. Terez Reed, he's had such a good season. Deshaun Batiste, I've been telling you guys about him for since the start of the season. The redshirt freshman from Tulane, he had a sack in there. He got after, but other than that, we didn't really do too well on the defensive line, especially the interior. Bryce Langston didn't really seem apparent. Josh Roberts wasn't really doing too well either. Um, so that's a negative. I didn't even see Bryce Langston in for too much of the game. Don't know why. Maybe he was injured and I didn't see anything about that. But he was expected to be our best defensive player, and he was non apparent. Zaire Horton played really well as well. So that's good. But overall, the defense, there were some guys who stood out, but it really seemed like we really weren't playing with much heart to get the stops on Key John Owens, just taking it himself. And we all knew, I can't emphasize this enough. We knew what FIU was going to do heading into the game. They were going to run the football, and we weren't planned. We weren't prepared to stop it. And it just kept on happening time and time again. He'd continue to get at least 4 yards up the middle. Sometimes we wouldn't be able to tackle him. He'd get those bursts for 10 plus yards, and then there's no stopping him after that. And I can't tell you how much of this game that we could have been how much of a better chance we'd have to win if we could just adjust to just making our defense play maybe a 4-4 and just stopping the run 4-3, because that is something that we need to start doing, especially when their whole game plan is running the football. Let's talk about on the offensive side. Coach Kitley, first off, I'm going to say it up front, terrible play call. Terrible play call. You have a 3rd and long in probably the most important play of the game, and you run the ball. Leaves up a 4th and 11. He goes for it. This happened in the Maryland game. It's happening again now. Why are we going for it on 4th and 12s? Why? There's no point. Pin them back in their own territory. Yes, it's the 3rd quarter and we're down 14. I think it was at the time, but it doesn't make any sense. I get it. He's young. His game plan is to air the ball and go for it and be aggressive. But, I don't get it. I really don't get it. I don't get how he's a head coach and he's calling these plays on 4th and 12. I even was questioning to myself, at Texas Tech, did he not learn this? I want to go back, watch if they went for it as much as he did, because he's way too aggressive. I felt like he was playing a video game going for it with that long to go. And that was so bad to see. Caden Velkamp, we've been calling it for a while. There have been some struggles, and we have videos to back that up throughout fall camp. He really showed. It really showed. 4 picks in the Maryland game, 3 picks tonight. The 2 opponents that he's faced, FBS teams, the 2 FBS teams he's faced, he's combined for 7 interceptions. It's not good. And, as much as people want to blame the offensive line, I criticized Dottie Richardson in the Maryland game. We have to remember Keyshawn Sapp and Madden Sanker. They're both not playing. Madden Sanker retired medically from football. This offensive line is very bruised up. Alex Octavius, he continues to be the best in our O-line. Vinny and Braden Cunningham were sharing snaps at center. I'm really high on Braden. He had the highest PFF grade out of everyone on O-line. But it's Caden's fault sometimes. Caden, we have to put it on him sometimes. And you have a guy in Zach Gibson who started at the FBS level at Georgia State. He started in the Division I last season for, I think it was 4 or 5, maybe 6 games. And I don't understand why, Coach Kitley isn't making this more of a battle. Velkamp, he's too inconsistent. And I've been saying it since fall. This is a guy who can go out there and throw 5 touchdowns and no picks, but he can also go out there and throw 4 picks and 1 touchdown. Last night, it wasn't his day. Receiving room, think he should have, targeted Shad Wassim more. Shad Wassim is always open. We'll do a film breakdown more Let's see. We'll do a film breakdown this week about Caden Velkamp, some of the guys he's missed while being open. Easton Messer, they doubled him the whole game, 6 catches, 64 yards, and a touchdown. But let's talk about the coaching. Man, I don't know where to start. And now, it's hard. Coach Kelly didn't hire an offensive coordinator or a quarterback's coach. So he's obviously the offensive play caller. There's no escaping the fact that he was not the play caller. It's super clear. Coach Kelly is the play caller. Now, some of the play calls were disastrous. Some of the decision making were disastrous. But FAU's never lost to FIU. And I want you to think about this. Under last year's coaching staff and last year's team, we're at least 2-1, maybe 3-0. And I know what you're sitting there saying. JJ, we went 3-9 last year. How are we 3-0? Well, let's think about it. We go to Michigan State last year. We lose the game by 6 points. It really should have been 4 points if there wasn't a safety, and we had the ball to win the game on the final drive. Michigan State is better than Maryland. Last year's Michigan State team was better than Maryland. Last year, Maryland won one game in the Big Ten Conference. One game. If we play the same game that we did against Michigan State last year, we probably go into Maryland and maybe win. But still, I'll give Kelly the benefit of the doubt. Say we lose that game. Well, we're obviously beating FCS team. Herman beat Monmouth a couple years ago, 42-21. I mean, we're gonna beat Florida A&M no matter what, no matter who the coach is. I would coach, and we'd still probably beat Florida A&M. That's no disrespect to them or their program, but they're on a different level. They're on the FCS. We're on the FBS. Now you think about it. So at that point, we're 1-1, probably, maybe 2-0. And then FIU comes. And we just destroyed FIU last year. We won by more than 50 points. I said coming into the season, if we don't win 2 games in non-conference play, something's wrong. There's no excuse. And, if we don't beat Memphis, if I'm Brian White, I'm not going to say anything. It's year 1. I've been the biggest advocate to keep head coaches for 3 years. But I still don't understand, how Kelly's a head coach with some of these play calls. Now let's talk a little bit about Brian White and the direction of the program. Brian White is a great person. And I'll give him that. He's a really good person. Brian White made a good hire with Dusty May. He made a really good hire. 5 straight winning seasons, Final Four. Great hire. Clap it up to Brian White for that. But Dusty May's not here anymore. Now you could say he made a great hire in Jacobs. We don't know yet. We were expected to finish 5th in the conference last year. We finished 5th in the conference. So Jacobs hasn't exceeded or under-exceeded expectations. We're about there. I've seen a few people say he's on the hot seat. He had a winning season. We made the NIT. Yes, we lost so many one-score games or games that came down to the wire, which were single digits. Shout out to Jacobs. I know I'm getting very off topic here because it's a football video, but I'm talking about Brian White. Now let's talk about the football hires here. Brian White got here in 2018. He didn't hire Coach Kiffin. Brian White's first hire was Willie Taggart. Willie Taggart won 5 games all 3 years he was here. Look, I think, Willie Taggart is... That's a hire where it's like, you can't blame him, right? Because Willie Taggart was at Oregon. He saw a little bit of success there. He went 7-5. We're still trying to figure out how he got the Florida State job after going 7-5 at Oregon. He goes over to Florida State. He doesn't work out. He comes here. Brian White fires him, pulls the trigger after 3 years. Lost that final game, which we should have won. And yes, I still would have given him an extra year, and here's why. Year 1, we went 5-3. That was the COVID year. Year 2, 5-7. Year 3, 5-7. That's 1 for 3 in bowls. Give him one more year. Make it like that year or nothing. But he beat FIU. He beat FIU every year here. He understood that rivalry. Then we bring in Herman. I mean, I really like Herman. I think Herman was a great guy. Still, the hire's a little bit confusing. He didn't live up to expectations at Texas. He was then the Bears assistant, like assistant guy on their staff. He didn't even have a position job. Yeah, analyst, assistant analyst for the Bears. We hired him as head coach. Tom Herman only got a year and a half here. You got to give Tom Herman a little bit more time, I feel like. Tom Herman, I feel like the reason we fired Tom Herman is because his expectations were super high. He's like, we're going to come in here. We're going to compete for championships year 1, no matter what. And we didn't compete for a conference championship. But still, my rule is give every coach at least 3 years. And then the coach Kitley hired. This is a guy who's really young. I get it. You compare him to Kiffin in some sense, but he's never had any head coaching experience. He's never had any defensive experience. And he's not taking this rivalry like Willie Simmons is. Willie Simmons says they don't even earn the respect for us to say their name. They're a little school up north, and we're going to beat them every single year. I want that out of Kitley. I despise FIU with every single thing in me. And the fact that Tom Herman was able to, despise them as much, he didn't respect them and win, was great. The fact that Zach Kitley just says, we're going to take every game the same, this one doesn't mean too much. I get it's a rivalry, but every game we're going to take the same. That is not what you want in a rivalry game. And this game just means more. Look, I hope Coach Kitley will learn that, you got to really extra prepare for this one. And Brian White, that's 3 straight hires right now. And we're already questioning because so far in 2 games where he's 0-2 in FBS opponents. We've never lost to FIU. We're playing a team in a much worse conference than us. We have much more talent than them. There's some questions, but give Kitley 3 years. Brian White makes great basketball hires, but football, we have a question here. And I'm going to say it. I've received so many DMs. Let me pop this one on the screen because I think it's good to respond to some of the fans' questions. And, I'm going to pop it up right here. And the reason I'm bringing this up is, nothing against Brian himself, but this is what the fans are asking. And I want to answer questions from the fans. So, here we go. Brian White, this is from American Sports Central, who says, Brian White messed up not securing Charlie West, like I had suggested last year. Zach Kitley's play calling is atrocious. There's no strategy or defensive reads evident in the middle. That's a really good comment. And I totally agree, American Sports Central, AAC Sports Central. Charlie West is someone who I would have wanted to have. He coached here for a bit too. He's a young guy. And we were actually really high on getting him in the coaching search for Herman, I think it was. And we didn't. And I agree with him, with the Brian White stuff. Then we had another comment a bit ago, and don't want to look for it mid-podcast, but it was basically saying Brian White needs to go. I want to give Brian White more time. I want to let this hire play out, but I just wanted to give my thoughts on it, and I think it's a pretty fair opinion. His basketball hires have been good. His football haven't. I mean, it's clear he fired the 2 coaches he's hired so far in football. he had that connection with Dusty May, with Mike White, his brother, being at Florida. He recommended him. I don't know if Brian White's gonna hire Dusty May if it weren't for his brother. So a lot of questions with Brian, a lot of questions with Kelly. We need to stay optimistic. If we go undefeated throughout conference play, which isn't gonna happen, but if we do, we make the conference championship. We still have a chance to win the American Conference. Will that get us into the playoff? I don't think so anymore with that second loss. But a bowl game is still very possible. So let's stay optimistic. Let's be Owls fans. Stay tuned. We're going to be bringing you so much content throughout the rest of the week. Thank you guys so much for watching. See y'all in the next one. Peace.